You're watching Just the News. I'm Amita Balachandra. We have a lot to get through today, so let's get straight to it. Our first story comes in from Punjab. Bhagwant Mann has been administered as the 18th Chief Minister of Punjab by Governor Banwari Lal Purohit today. So he took oath today, beginning his address by chanting Jo Bole So Nihal and Bharat Mata Ki Jai. Mann said, and I quote, "I will have to be born many times to repay this debt. Even a rooster sports a crown, but those who rule win hearts." End quote. Meanwhile, Congress leaders, part of the G23 faction, are meeting at former Rajya Sabha MP Ghulam Nabi Azad's residence in New Delhi. Now, among the G23 leaders present at the meeting include Anand Sharma, Kapil Sibal, Manish Tiwari, and Prithviraj Chauhan, among other leaders. In the meantime, Congress President Sonia Gandhi on Tuesday asked the chiefs of 5 state units, including Navjot Singh Sidhu in Punjab, to resign. Moving on to our other big story now, it's day 21 of Ukraine crisis. Starting off with Kyiv and what's happening in and around Kyiv, Russia has intensified attack in Ukraine's capital. 2 high-rise residential buildings were hit by Russian shells in Kyiv early this morning, according to the BBC, injuring 2 people. Now, people across the city have been taking shelter in bunkers as part of a 2-day curfew announced by the mayor. The city's mayor has said that it is a difficult and dangerous moment for the capital. Meanwhile, taking to Twitter, the US Embassy in Kyiv on Wednesday said Russian forces shot and killed 10 people standing in line for bread in Chernihiv. Now, the embassy took to Twitter to say, and I quote, "Such horrific attacks must stop. We are considering all available options to ensure accountability for any atrocity crimes in Ukraine," end quote. Now, talks between Russia and Ukraine are continuing. Russia has said that some parts of a possible peace deal with Ukraine are close to being agreed after Kyiv hinted at a possible route for a compromise. Now, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has said that the talks were becoming more realistic. Also in the news, 2 journalists working for Fox News have been killed in Ukraine. Fox News announces on Tuesday that its video journalist and a Ukrainian journalist were killed when their vehicle came under fire outside the Ukrainian capital in Kyiv. Another journalist was injured in the incident and has been hospitalized. Also, Ukraine President Zelenskyy, addressing the US Congress, has said that it is the darkest time for his country and made this demand again for a no-fly zone over Ukraine to halt Russian bombings that have killed over 100 children. He said, and I quote, "Is this too much to ask?" He also proposed alternatives, asking for more defense systems, that all Russian politicians still in their offices be sanctioned. We told you yesterday also that 3 prime ministers, one from Czech Republic, Poland and Slovenia, went to Ukraine to discuss sanctions, weapons and humanitarian aid, and also offer support to the Ukrainian president and what's happening in Ukraine. Now, the Czech PM has said, and I quote, "Ukrainians are fighting immensely bravely, but they only stand a chance against Russia's huge advantage if Western countries supply enough military equipment," end quote. Also in the news, the Council of Europe has expelled Russia from the continent's foremost human rights body in an unprecedented move over its invasion of Ukraine. Now, the 47-nation Committee of Ministers said in a statement that, and I quote, "The Russian Federation ceases to be a member of the Council of Europe as from today after 26 years of membership," end quote. Moving away from this big story now to other news that's coming in from across the country, starting off with the hijab ban controversy. Yesterday, we told you that Karnataka High Court had upheld the hijab ban in educational institutions. A day later, the Indian Express has reported that the girls who had first petitioned in the Karnataka High Court have skipped classes. Now, police personnel were deployed near schools and colleges in Udupi. Remember, Section 144 will remain in force in the area with restrictions on processions, celebrations and protests till the 21st of March. Also, the Supreme Court today said that it will consider listing an appeal challenging the High Court upholding the ban on wearing of hijab in educational institutions in the southern state after the holy recess. Chief Justice of India N.V. Ramana told senior advocate Sanjay Hegde, who sought urgent listing, and I quote, "Others also mentioned, let us see, we will list after vacation," end quote. An update in the Lakhimpur Kheri case. The Supreme Court today issued a notice on a plea seeking cancellation of bail to Ashish Mishra, an accused in the Lakhimpur Kheri case. A bench presided by the Chief Justice of India also asked the Uttar Pradesh government to ensure that the witnesses are protected and asked it to file a reply in the matter. Now, on October 3rd last year, a convoy of vehicles ran over a group of protesting farmers in Lakhimpur Kheri. 4 farmers and a journalist were killed and several others were injured. Also, Hindustan Times has reported that the CBI has filed a charge sheet against former Defence Secretary Shashikant Sharma and the then Air Vice Marshal Jasbir Singh Panesar and 3 other senior retired Indian Air Force officers in connection with alleged irregularities in the Augusta-Westland chopper case. Now, this is the 3rd charge sheet filed in the VVIP chopper purchase case. The case involves alleged bribery to swing a deal for Augusta-Westland to provide 12 VVIP helicopters to India for top leaders including the President, Prime Minister and others. Also in the news, the centre on Tuesday restored the 5-year e-tourist visas for people from 156 countries. The move is aimed at boosting tourism, which has suffered mostly because of the pandemic, especially in the last 2 years. Indian Express, quoting sources, has said that not only would foreigners be allowed to apply for fresh e-tourist visas, but existing 5-year visas will also be honoured now. Moving on to international news, we start off with what's happening in China because of COVID. Cases that are going on increasing every single day. Health authorities in China have said that those with mild infections should opt for centralized isolation instead of a hospital, as was the rule until now. Now, 3,290 COVID cases were reported as of Wednesday morning, which means that was how much it was reported a day earlier. The decision was taken to maximize hospital resources as China scrambles to contain the worst and widest COVID-19 outbreak, and there are lockdowns that have been imposed within China as well. Now, after China, South Korea is now facing its worst COVID-19 outbreak as the country hit another milestone, recording over 4 lakh infection cases today. Now, according to the state media, this is the highest since the country reported its first COVID case in January last year. Most of these cases are said to be locally transmitted. And one piece of good news before we wrap things up here on this bulletin, this is also sports news coming in from India. Jhulan Goswami has become the first cricketer to take 250 wickets in women's ODI. Now, this comes only 3 days after Goswami surpassed Australia's Lynn Fulston to become the all-time highest wicket taker in the history of the Women's World Cup. Now, at 39, the fast bowler is representing India in her 5th Women's World Cup edition, having made her debut in the tournament in 2005. That brings us to the end of this bulletin. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.